Hello, everybody, and welcome to Cosmere Connections. We're a bunch of book-loving nerds rereading Brandon Sandersons' Cosmere series. From book 1 to book 16 million, we'll be uncovering every secret connection there is to find. Today, we are joined by Swiggityswoo.
Hey, what's up, guys? I got a new coat rack. Looks just like my carriage driver.
We've got John.
These noodles are delicious, and boobs are fun.
Kay's here, too.
A person is more than their experiences stacked up like stones, but our best moments are the foundations we use to reach the sky.
That's a good one. And I'm ReaderWarrior. And today, we are going to be talking about Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. Now, before we get started, I want to make a brief little note here. Do you guys know what day it is?
7/27/23.
Thursday?
Yes. Do you know why I'm bringing up the date?
Was this the day
No.
that we
Is it your
was
birthday,
this
mate?
close to when we first met last year?
This was the day we created Cosmere Connections.
Our 1-year anniversary? No way!
Are you serious?
Yes, it is.
Oh, that's amazing!
That's why
so
I pushed really
wild.
hard for today to be the day we came back. And
That's
I
so cool.
went back and I did a brief little thing. And John, you have covered a total of 24 chapters so far. Kay, you have covered 22. Sweetie, you've covered 24. Dragon's covered 2. But he's appeared in 9. Juan's covered 2, but appeared in 5. And I've covered 26. We have had a total of 120 hours of content. Roughly 5 whole days worth.
Dang.
Oh my god.
Nice.
Just
Look at
released
that.
just so far, too.
Right, and we're not even through the first series. We're just on 2 books.
Mm-hmm.
You thought the novels were long.
I just wanted to quickly bring that up and say, guys, I'm so proud of us for doing that this far, and I'm so happy to continue doing this with you guys.
We're going to be doing it until we reach our graves.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much.
It has
Sorry, I
been
just
good.
had to briefly do that. I was very excited to do it today just for this specific reason.
Yeah.
No, that was really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I knew that it was coming up soon, but I didn't know that it was today. That's awesome.
I'm terrible about dates, so if you would have asked me when it was, I'd have been like, oh.
It's so funny.
Well, what month
my
is it?
mom
I
asked
don't
me,
know.
like,
We just started doing it. Like
just today, like, how long have you been doing that podcast anyway? Like, yeah, it's been a while, huh?
Well,
apparently
just about
a year to
year.
the day.
Year to the day.
Look at us go.
Well, with that out of the way, we're going to immediately put the spoiler sticker on right now because this is going to be a no holds back. Yeah, everybody slap at the screen.
It's like we high five.
This is going to be a no holds bar. Oh, he's got an actual
Upside down.
sticker for it.
Upside down. Yes.
2 of us are cool.
Oh, I don't have a sticker. I don't have anything.
We're going to be talking about everything and anything. We've got no set of notes except for the ones we did when we were actually reading the book. We've got no idea where this conversation is going to go. We don't even know how long this is going to last and how it's going to end. But you have been warned. Do not watch this if you have not read Yumi and the Nightmare Painter or potentially the entire Cosmere.
Definitely the entire Cosmere.
Right? There's no chance we are staying to one book.
Most likely, yeah. But you've been warned. Then what did everybody think of this book? Let's go around the thing and brief thoughts on the book. Swiggity, you go first.
Oh, Swiggityswoo. I'm stalling. So,
John's vibrating in his chair right now.
okay, so honestly, I liked Tress better, so I'm gonna get that out of the way so I can just talk
Same.
positive stuff about it. Like,
I will fight you.
Tress just hit that spot for me. It was like this, it was like a new genre for Brandon to kind of cover. It was like a weird kind of fairy tale thing, and this, like, it had the same Hoyd narration, but it didn't seem to fit as well for me. But I still really liked it, and I still really liked the magic system. Like, of all the magic systems that we've gotten, this one started sparking my imagination of, like, what more could you do with that? And obviously I love to draw, so I just started thinking, like, what could I create? But like, yeah, the romance and stuff. Maybe I just wasn't in the mood for it, but it didn't quite land with me. I do really like Painter, and I really like Yumi, but we'll get into it. Somebody else can go.
I do want to jump off of what Swiggity was saying. I did enjoy this one, but same, it didn't hit the same as Tress. Like, I like Tress a lot more. And honestly, the romance, I love Sanderson. Romance is not his strong suit, and it didn't hit right with me either.
But it did
But
interest.
still, it didn't hit interest more than this one.
Yeah, trust more for me too.
I don't know exactly why. I can't articulate it. But I did enjoy it. Again, I really liked the magic system, the nightmares, the fact that it really incorporates art a lot into the magic system. I thought was really cool because we haven't really seen that as much. We've seen it a little bit with Shalon in the Stormlight Archive with light weaving and stuff, but not as much as being like an integral part of the magic system. So that was really nice. The Hoyt narrations were fun. They honestly, I read it once and then I listened to it. And the Hoyt narrations remind me, I know that no one else here has read the Alcatraz books, but it reminds me of the Alcatraz narrations. Because he does the same thing in the Alcatraz books, where at the beginning of a chapter, he'll like pause and like talk about something and then like get back to the story, which felt very similar, which I thought was interesting.
I do like that kind of stuff, like especially when it sets up kind of metaphorically what's about to go down in the next chapter, and it works really well when it's Hoyd too, even when he's doing it in Take a Drink Stormlight. Because
I think I would have liked it more if I hadn't like read the Alcatraz books already. Because to me, it feels kind of like something that, like, this is something that Sanderson has already done in other series, and it's not something necessarily like, it doesn't feel like something specifically Hoyd necessarily. It feels to me, because I've read the Alcatraz books, it feels Alcatraz.
makes me
It
want to
feels
read
like
Alcatraz.
I mean, I've read part of the first Alcatraz books, so I know what you're talking about. And yeah, it's a similar mechanic, but you know, so is organizing your book by chapter. Like, I don't know. I guess maybe it just didn't strike me so hard because I'm not a big fan of Alcatraz. Like, I'll say it. I apologize, but I couldn't finish it. I was not into it. And it might be because it's just I was beyond the target age of that book when I first tried reading it. You know, like 35 is more than 7 or 8. You know,
There was something like frustrating too with the Hoyd narration for me, because it's like when he's there, when he's in the story, especially in this book where he's literally in the story as a coat rack or a hat rack, you're like, okay, what's this motherfucker about to do? Like, and when he's like telling the story, it's distracting, you know. Sometimes frustrating.
I'll bring that. I want to go back to that when I get to my little critiques of it. I think we're doing critiques right off the bat first because we do really like this book.
No,
John,
this book
you
is
give
perfect.
your thoughts. John, you give your thoughts, then I'll give mine, and then we can kind of focus on little critiques that we have.
This book was perfect in every way. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I loved this book. It is hands down, by a mile, my favorite of the Secret Project so far. And I love it for a lot of reasons, because first of all, think about the last dream that you remember your dream, right? Was the background vivid and distinct? Do you remember things from the background, or just what's going on in front of you, right? I just blew reader's mind, didn't I? The background in a dream is just kind of nothing, right? It's like the blackness. It's like the shroud, right? So you have this kind of dreamlike state that nightmares come from, right? This is freaking perfect, man. It is perfect. And for me, I really love the whole neon noir thing. So the Heon lines to me was just like, oh my god, the visuals in this are just amazing, right? And as I'm listening to this book, because I did the audiobook because that's just what I do, um, I'm picturing it and I'm thinking, man, I'm just waiting for the Faith to show up from Final Fantasy X and tell me that this is all a dream. And then I get to the end of the book and I read the afterword and I'm like, yeah, please, because that was one of the big draws, you know, or the big inspirations for the idea of the, you know, the spirit character and the fantasy jobs and all of that. There's that iconic scene in Final Fantasy X where Tidus and Yuna are standing on top of this
Final
ledge.
Fantasy, apparently.
It's a very early part of the game. It's not much of a spoiler, but it's an infamous scene because they're forcing themselves to laugh so that they don't get like caught in this like moment of despair about the situations they're in, and the laugh is just so bad. Ha 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 ha! And I'm like, I'm picturing that as they're sitting in Nikaro's apartment teaching Yumi how to do bamboo, right? Like, I'm picturing that same thing. They're like forcing themselves to do this so they don't get just caught in despair of what they're stuck in. It was just a beautiful thing. The scene, or the setting in general, was so good. I loved design in this. She was hilarious and perfect. I mean, her comment when she's like, mathematically, the boobs should be perfect. Plus, they're fun. Like, she's just great. The idea of Nikoro, who is Painter, for, you know, feeling his inadequacies and his inability to, like, go back and, like, confront what he's done because he just can't bring himself to disappoint his friends again. Like, there is so much to identify with in this book, and it just was absolutely awesome. I loved every minute of it. Every minute of it.
That's awesome. What you were saying in there about like the Final Fantasy where they're trying to overcome the darkness by making each other laugh. You reminded me of this quote from The Dark Tower. Yeah, take another drink. Where Susanna Dean is talking about, like, somebody says, well, what happens if you get stuck in that blackness for all eternity and you can't come back? And she goes, then I'll light the darkness with thoughts of my loved ones. And it reminded me of that. It's like,
that's great.
Which kind of happens at the end.
A little bit, yeah.
Little bit. I gotta say, my thoughts on this book are very weird. I could not say if I like this one more than Tress in the Emerald Sea or not, because I love these characters. These have probably, I know you guys have seen how much I love Elend, but Painter was just, and I know this is really popular throughout the fandom right now, is, oh, he's just like me, for real, and that whole thing. But I felt an immediate connection with Painter from the get-go, and when he's like, no, I betrayed them, and I actually did it, and the friends are hating him and talking behind his back, I was crying. I felt actual emotion to that. And it brought up memories from my past, and I loved every bit of the characters. I love the romance. I actually felt really happy with the romance. I love that sort of we're annoyances to lovers. I love that trope. And mostly from anime, which, like you said, Japanese culture and Korean culture was a huge part of this book.
Yeah.
But I did more enjoy Tress in the Emerald Sea's story. And I like the magic there. And I like that one more in that aspect. Like, here's the goal we have to do. Here's all these interesting new spores we got to figure out. There's this great threat that's harmed Hoyd, and he's sent us down that way. And apparently there's a dragon. And that was so thrilling in that part. Whilst in this, I was just like, okay, the aesthetic is really cool, and I would love to see this in an anime. Just the pinks and the cyans. Like, do it sort of like Batman the Animated Series, where those are like the main things you use in black. See what people can do with that. And then to counteract that, you've got the bright sun, green, blue. a perfect heavenly experience,
Oh, the
sort of.
floating foliage. That was such a cool
so
thing to
cool.
picture.
Really
But, like,
cool.
for whatever reason, the story, anytime they start working on okay, what's going actually on? Let's track down this thing. I was like, no, come on, go back to more about you talking about art. Go back to more about her figuring out how a shower works, or him helping her, talk. Go into more about that. I want more about the characters in this. And I loved every minute of it. I love them going to the carnival and just having a blast there. And it was so
That-
sweet and wholesome.
I
And
do
her,
think that was one of my favorite scenes was them going to the carnival and her like just experiencing that for the first time and that unadulterated joy that she has at it and just this like it's like this mystical place, this majesty that's there.
like her, even using her powers to see, oh, that's the stack of bottles that can easily be knocked down to get the giant stuffed animal. And then she gives it to a little kid. It's like this whole part I love. But, and don't take this as me hating on the book. I love this book. But a few of my complaints, other than I didn't like the actual plot that much, is also the action never really made sense to me. Like, I get you got these nightmares, which when they form can actually hurt people. But, the two things that stop them are a person places rocks at the end versus a machine placing rocks. And then the other one is just people drawing them. Like, are the monsters slowing down? Are they freezing as they're being drawn? Like the whole idea of all the nightmare painters all in a line with brushes and pens and all as an army of nightmares marches sounds cool, except for the fact once they reach the front lines, are you just gonna frantically try to draw something as it's digging into you?
Yeah.
I think so. It's similar to like the spread where once they have been um like cataloged, measured, recorded, um in a human perception, like they take on that shape. So the goal for like the painters is to um put them into a shape before they get close enough to where they can actually hit you.
Additionally, just to answer the question and then you can carry on. Additionally, they discuss that it's not the actual painting or stacking of stones, it's the intent that does it. So as soon as the painter has that solidified vision in their mind, it starts becoming reality, which would then move the nightmare towards that more docile,
the painting,
less threatening space, and give them the time they would need to complete,
It's similar to how a light weaving works, where Shalon kind of needs the drawing, just not because she actually needs a drawing, but because she needs the physical representation of it, helps facilitate it. Right?
I understand the romantics of it. I understand we've seen how cognitive shadows are affected by what you perceive them as. I'm just, in my mind, visually, it doesn't seem interesting at all. Like the line about Yumi has been doing this stacking thing for thousands of years. She is the best that there ever was. Okay, that's cool, but visually, all we're seeing is a girl stacking rocks.
But stacking rocks in a way that the rocks look like they are defying gravity.
If it was like anime style, it could be beautiful.
Okay, and I'll allow that, but it's just in my mind, I'm not seeing this epically, I guess is the word. I'm not seeing it in a way that makes me, I want to see more of this. I want to see more of, the drawing, that. I know, I've seen the artwork. The artwork is really cool, but it's just, how would you draw her just suddenly picking up rocks and maybe her dancing around them and spinning and I don't, it's just, as you're reading it, I just didn't see it entertaining in my mind. But with Shalon's, she's drawing and she can draw at a fast pace, and as she draws, it comes to life. Versus this, where you draw it and the thing just disappears.
Well, it doesn't disappear, it turns into that shape.
But then it disappears, right?
No, not in the final battle. No, it doesn't.
But in the final battle, they all like, because all of them were cognitive shadows of people that once were, and then they
So,
all disappeared, didn't they?
but not as they're drawing them. Not until Yumi defeats the machine do they disappear. So
Okay.
when it wasn't so during the final battle, all of the painters are trying to turn the nightmares into non-lethal things like flowers or like bamboo, something, things like that. And it wasn't working. It wasn't dispelling them. It would trap them for like
Ah,
moments until they turned their attention away from it, and then it would start to bubble up and grow back into the nightmare again. So
gotcha. See,
it
this is what I
wasn't
meant. Like,
until that nightmare, until Painter um realized that they were people, and he started painting them as their as who they are, that they were able to be trapped in that form of themselves.
Well, I would say that is a really good metaphor for like dealing with your demons through art, right? You know, you take your attention away from this negative thing, and it starts to build up into a nightmare or whatever, and then you focus on it and you kind of channel it through something creative or that you put your work into, and through that, you know, it kind of diminishes. I really like that metaphor, which I don't think I got until you explained it like that.
and I have no artistic talent whatsoever, but I love the comment on art, and like I'm sure you can probably attest. Like there becomes a point when you're drawing something where you're no longer even focused on what you're drawing. That just your hand starts moving, and it's just the pen flows with you, and the thing you wanted to create is appearing. And I love that. It's just for me, like the whole final battle just seems like I can't really envision this in a cool way. And it's a small nitpick, and I'm sure if you get like uh, Kiro Annie, so yeah, Kiro Annie, if they were to do it, I'm sure it would be beautiful, and I would be crying throughout the entire thing. But like,
Who is that?
these are our tiny little nitpicks, right? These are our tiny little nitpicks. I'm allowed this nitpick.
Well, and I think it also has to do with it's not a battle in the traditional sense of a battle.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very different from what we usually think of as like a final climactic event happening. So that's also why it becomes harder to necessarily visualize, because you're like, this isn't something that we're used to. This isn't the type of battle that we're used to seeing.
It does
There
kind
are no
of.
shard blades here.
It does kind of like continue on with this weird trend I'm starting to think I might be noticing here with Brandon of like getting away from action, like more and more. Like, you know, he's talked about in interviews and responses to things. I think he was responding to that Wired article or whatever. He said, "Oh, my job is to make things that are boring interesting." You know, and this is like a proof of concept of that to me, if nothing else. Of like, oh yeah, you know, they don't have swords; they're just painting pictures. That's the combat. That's the magic system. You know, and I think there's something to that of you saying like, yeah, it's cool, but it's, you know, it's not as cool as Shardblade.
Even like at the circus part when he forms a giant one and he's doing it on the ground to trap the one nightmare, like that one I can kind of see in a cool way. It was just the action parts didn't really feel like action to me, and that's one of my little nitpicks. That's one of my little dings in the minus jar, and I've only really got 3 of those, and it's like I didn't care much for the action, I didn't care much for like the world. And the other one is Hoyd, in which I'm kind of concerned by the fact that before Stormlight Archive 4, Hoyd was like this untouchable character. Like he's supposedly going to be the next Aiden Alcyon. He's collecting everything, and he's so great that he can just tell the shards to shove it where the sun don't shine. And then at the end of Rhythm of War, just suddenly Terravodium's like, oh wait, I'm just gonna pluck this memory from you. And Hoyd is none the wiser, at least until the start of 5, where supposedly they figure it out. But then we see in Tress, he gets tricked. Kind of, he does it on purpose, but he spends most of the book
100% does that on purpose. He did not get like tricked. He definitely did that on purpose because he knew he was tricking her more than she was tricking him.
He spends the whole book as like the goofy sidekick character doing absolutely nothing. And then in this one, he's literally a hat rack. I'm just a little bit upset that we're not seeing Hoyd, sort of. We're not seeing Hoyd, and I guess he's setting that up for like Mistborn Era 4 when it's going to be his point of view.
This is not a Hoyd story as well.
I
You
know,
have to keep
but
that in mind.
But like you can have it be written by Hoyd and not like incapacitate him, right?
Hoyd to me has always been like falling on hard times. Like this, he's just this dude who like, yeah, I guess I'm on Roshar now. I don't know why I'm here.
All these crabs and storms.
There's something I'm supposed to do, and I don't know what that is. But like, he's always been like this nomadic, just like always gets himself into these crazy situations. Personally, I love the coat rack. I mean,
I'm gonna throw this out there just as a sort of parallel thought line. If Hoyd is going to become a primary character at some point, he will have to go from infallible to fallible to, oh crap, how am I going to get out of this? Because otherwise there will be no tension in the later books. So it's kind of an important step, even if it's not as much fun as you'd like it to be.
True. I'm a bit concerned on how Brandon keeps writing Hoyd out of the story in these ways that just kind of stop Hoyd. Like, I know you don't like Superman because you see him as this holier than thou, nothing can beat him character. But I've seen.
Go ahead.
Like, they make him super powerful that he can't be stopped, right?
Yeah, he's literally as strong as he needs to be.
But some of the coolest comics and stuff is where it's not about his strength or his mind, and that's why Lex, it's not by his strength or speed or flight or heat vision. It's about how he is tricked into things and how he has to think to get out of them. That's why Lex Luthor, the human with super intellect, is his number one enemy. It's because it's about the mental aspect and how Luthor can trick him into these scenarios. And even though Superman has his full powers, he can get into them. Maybe something happens to the powers, but he also gets out using thinking, using his mind. In which Hoyd getting rid of his powers, I think I would be okay with that. But having something actually incapacitate him, I'm just worried that I don't know what the precedence is going to be on that.
Well, and like for this book, like
he did it to himself.
And he didn't do it on purpose. He didn't know that this was going to be the consequence of what he had put in place. He didn't know that that was what would happen if that protocol got enacted, that he would be frozen. I don't think he knew that was going to happen. I think he thought, oh, it's going to help, like, prevent someone from accessing my memories and messing with my spirit web.
Oh yeah, Hoyd makes mistakes.
Not realizing. Yeah, everyone makes mistakes. And so it's nice to also see that he is fallible. Like, there are things that he doesn't know.
Mm-hmm. Those are my 3 little critiques of this book. Does anybody have any more before we can actually start singing this book's praises?
There's kind of the Born Beautiful Yesterday trope. This book is definitely guilty of that. If you never heard of it, it's when a man falls for a woman who has for some reason been, segregated from society. So she's like born yesterday, but she's beautiful because she's been aged or whatever. It's like, I watched a whole long video about it. There's a million movies that have that trope, but I just recognize it immediately.
Like Tangled, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like
Tangled would be
like she's
that.
super innocent. She doesn't understand the culture. So this guy is like immediately the most interesting man she's ever met because it's the only one she's ever met. Like
The Little Mermaid is a great example of that.
yeah, there's a
So that.
ton. It's a huge thing. But that
But I would like to. Sorry.
I was just gonna say that I don't know, that bothered me, but I got past it because whatever.
I would agree with you if, like, immediately some of the first things she wasn't doing was, like, somebody else came along and she went out with them and just kind of dragged Painter along. Like, you have, I can't remember her name, but hey, let's go shopping. And, like,
But she went out with another woman.
But then she also got to join the group for ramen.
Oh my god, I ate so much ramen reading this book.
And their group has one boy in it.
And like he's like always flexing and always showing off, and like she's not really interested in it.
Yeah, well, I think that tracks for her. Her type is she's like very prim and proper and like I don't know if that would be her type.
She likes guys that
Jock.
lie right off the bat.
Granted, Painter's not super organized, it seems like.
Well, I mean, one of the first things they did was get naked and take a bath together, so, like...
I love the artwork where she's just glaring at him to see if he's gonna peek. That is, like, one of my favorite pages in the entire book. It's just that one drawing.
What did you guys think when you first realized this was Freaky Friday?
Oh, I saw it as, like, more of your name.
It's definitely Freaky Friday. I'm so sorry.
I haven't seen Your Name. Is that the one where...
It was like the #1 in Japan. It was like their #1 highest grossing movie. It's the one where the guy and the girl swap bodies and the whole movie's them trying to meet each other.
mentions it at the end of
He does.
I'm trying to dance around because the only thing I think I know
note.
about it is like a huge spoiler for the plot, so I don't even want to say it.
I think I know it, but I haven't seen it yet. I really have to watch it, so don't spoil this anime for me that is supposed to... Yes, I love that image. Kay's now holding it. I love that.
Oh, she found it first.
This book has some great art. Wow.
I love
art. I was so happy to get this book so I could look at the pictures. Because one thing that they do with this book, when you're listening to the audiobook, something that they've never done before is they have descriptions of the art in the audio narration. So I'm listening to the descriptions of these pictures, right? And I'm like, that is exactly perfect to this scene. I need to see these pictures. And so I waited patiently for my book to come, and the first thing I did was sit at the kitchen table and look at every picture in the freaking book.
Well, so the thing about it was that I hadn't finished reading it before I got the book this time. So I was like, I can't open it because I'm gonna get spoiled before I finish reading this. I can't open it. So I had to just stare at it and just be like, the cover looks so pretty, but I can't touch it yet because I haven't finished the book yet.
Someday I'll read these words.
If we're talking about visual details, I really loved how in each chapter, depending on whose viewpoint it was either the blue or the pink, the cyan or the pink, and how depending upon that it alternated, and how as it got to the end, and Sanderland's trope, every single viewpoint repeats like 5 dozen times in one chapter. Like, it was both of them on the chapter. I really like that.
It's pretty cool.
Well, and it had to be that way because they were the two he-owned lines, right? The cyan and the magenta, and they have to run in pairs.
Mm-hmm.
So...
we have a lot to cover.
This book is perfect.
Okay.
I really do love this book. Can we briefly, and I don't know how long we're going to stay on this, virtuosity?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. This had to come up sooner or later. Just
Birch?
splintered
Itself?
herself.
Huh?
What?
Okay.
Why?
Oh, okay.
Also, this raises a question.
We don't know how long ago it was.
Well,
Versus how far into the... to the future this book is. So we could, I think Brandon has said we will see virtuosity in the future, in the future books, but it's just most likely ones that come before her splintering herself.
I would say this is pretty far in the future because
Iron Station 7.
Iron Station 7?
Is
Right. Everybody thinks that's
definitely
Scadrian.
a Scadrian. Definitely Scadrian.
Oh yeah.
Space station.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely like Era 4 Mistborn
Jeez.
timeline.
Please.
So very far in the future. Also, I'd want to say I think that Virtuosity splintered herself because of the because she is virtuous. And so she decided, this is my own like pet theory, is that she decided that the best course of action would be to break herself into splinters to help the world. To help this world that she was on.
I can see that. Spread her power in a way that she couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Just by normally investing. I can see that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It could be maybe Odium was holding a gun to her head and said, "Splinter yourself."
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Which part? The gun part or Odium?
Both.
Yeah.
Shard gun.
I don't really have a pet theory as to how, why, when, where, etc. Except to say that we know it's more than 700 years before current story time, and it's probably
more than
1700
years.
Or I'm sorry, 1700 years, and it's probably many, many generations before that, because even Yumi's time, they didn't know about virtuosity at all. So they're just, like, it's far enough beyond her that it's completely faded into non-knowledge.
I kind of
Which
have a
makes
theory
me
about
wonder,
it.
how big of a time skip are we going to have between Era 3 and Era 4 of Mistborn? If we've got to have enough time for them to be building, satellite stations.
I think it's going to be a very big time skip.
Looking at hundreds of maybe 1,000 years.
I would say like 3,000.
I think Era 4 is supposed to be in, like, they've already developed space travel and they are traveling throughout the Cosmere.
I think that's going to get moved to Era 5, and I think we're going to get one in the middle of that. Because I feel
it's like possible. It's happened before.
Looking at you, Era 2.
I think he definitely wants to, but I think he's trying really hard
to finish.
To stick to the books that he has planned already for the main Cosmere storyline.
I gotta write the
You're
books
saying that
planned.
as we're reading a secret project.
Well, this was never intended for public consumption, so...
This was A, never intended for public consumption, and B, it was never it was never, like, it's not a core Cosmere world.
I feel kind of bad judging it now.
It may... I mean...
He said this was his favorite, and is this the one that he wrote for his wife?
Yes.
Or was it...
Okay. 3 of them, but this one in particular says...
He wrote this one for his wife. Mm-hmm. I think I said that on Tress, which I apologize if I did.
No, he wrote several of them for his wife and his kids.
He wrote 2 for his wife, 1 for his kids, and...
Yeah, this one says, and I quote,
1 for himself.
Also for Emily, who for some amazing reason gives me her love. Come on. Okay.
My theory for virtuosity splitting is, like, maybe it was another multi-shard, kind of like Harmony, and those powers were, like, tying her hands, just like Harmony, so she split herself.
I would love that, but I don't know how you're getting 2 shards combined into virtuosity. Because imagine how cool it would be if we get down the line and we have 2 more shard names, and we're just like, wait a second, that doesn't even add up. That's one too many. And then we learn that they combine to become one. That would be awesome. I would love that. But the thing is now, we waited for how long to get the 16? We struggled to get Char names, and then in Rhythm of War, we just have, hey, here's Sazed, name dropping like 6.
Right?
And then you're missing all but 2. And then we're like, what if the last 2? It's like, I figured them out. I just don't have the right names for it. And then, like, here, Virtuosity splintered herself.
What
Virtuosity, was Virtuosity mentioned in
Nope.
Rhythm of War? No,
Nope.
so we're just missing 1 now, correct?
Yep. We've got 15.
Wow, that's so wild.
What if Virtuosity gets wind that Odium is free of Roshar and is coming for her, and so in order to avoid bringing him to her system, she goes,
Oh.
But here's the question.
There's more. Which makes me wonder, can a vessel splinter the shard and still live?
I think not at that point. I think if you had just become it, Vin could have. Because she was not completely connected. We saw she could still use the power, but not be tied to the intent. I think that once she became combined with it, then they become one. I think there's like, granted, I don't know the exact time, but there would be a little bit amount of time where they could be pried apart.
I don't think you could do it without killing yourself, because Vin did kill herself in the process of like defeating Ruin.
Well,
but she attacked the vessel. She attacked AT, not necessarily Ruin.
Also,
I think it's possible.
To your point, John, about Odium going after other shards, do we think that Taravangian is going to continue Ray's thought process of
genocide,
going after other shards and shattering them?
Could be autonomy.
I don't think so. I
don't think so unless he made
plan.
Well, so here's the thing. We know that the longer a vessel holds a shard, the more swayed by the intent of that shard they become, right? Ray's held that shard for umpteen gajillion years, right? So the longer Taravangian holds it, the more he's going to also...
Race was also somehow able to fight against the shard a lot. We saw that he did not want praise or anything, but the power did. Race did not like being questioned, I think was it. But the power liked the emotion of a creature questioning it.
But AT was a kind and gentle soul until he took up Ruin, and then he wants to destroy planets. So
that might have to do with like the vessel, though, and how the vessel was. AT might have been a kind person, but maybe he was a weaker one.
I would say that's also why AT waited so long before deciding to destroy the planet. Like,
I suppose we shall have to Rapho.
Like he was holding it back, but I guess at some point you can't. And especially when your best friend traps you in a cavern for 1,000 years.
Just real quick.
Let's focus in on Yumi.
Coming back to Yumi.
What if real quick, what if like Virtuosity, like what if the intent of it is like was like taking over? She's like, I don't want to do what this power wants me to do. I'm just gonna splinter myself. Granted, I'm not sure what.
Is there are many reasons why she might have splintered herself, and I'm interested to find out that reason.
Would she even be cognizant that the power is influencing?
She would have to be if she made that decision.
Or was it the power?
Yeah, that's my point. I was like, would she be even cognizant enough of the power influencing her thoughts and her decision making enough to make that decision?
She would be somewhat, because in the chapter where Taravangian becomes Odium, there is mention of how the power has its own intent from the perspective of Odium. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, I've only reread Rhythm of War once, so it's been a minute.
Having not too
Okay.
long ago just refinished it, I will say that is one that I did not enjoy as much the first time, but the second and third times were increasingly good. That one ages like wine.
True. Okay, I've got my notes up just so we can kind of
Orange
stay
or
a little bit
violet?
on track. I can't believe you guys. I'm sure you guys can understand how happy I was to see that design was here.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Everybody
oh my
was super
gosh.
excited about that.
I thought of you when I
I
heard
knew
that.
she wasn't dead. Y'all were all like, "What? Design is dead.
No,
He killed
no,
her." I was like,
never.
"No."
It was possible. He said to Downer,
No.
"I will let this world burn if it means I get what I want." You seriously don't think he wouldn't like turn her into a
But-
Deadeye if it meant needing to get off?
But
I
don't
was just
think
concerned
but he
for
wouldn't
her.
he wouldn't give up that power. That's the thing. He wouldn't give up that power.
Apparently,
Think
she's not very
Hoyt
good at
might
being a
if it was
sword.
too much of a hindrance. That's hilarious, though.
Like, just saying the power made me think of it. Like, do we have any idea what that means?
The
Repeat
light
it again.
weaving,
I can't,
soul casting.
even though we've already said full spoilers, reader, you don't look at previews, so you don't know a very important piece of information, and I'm not
Would
going
you
to say
like me
anything
to
else
move my
beyond that.
I think I know
No,
what
I'm
you're
not going to
getting
say
at.
anything beyond that. But there's a very important piece of information that had you had it, you would know that there's no way Hoyd would abandon design.
Like permanent. I'm just saying if he needed to, he might have. And I was concerned that every single book up until this one, where we've seen after Rhythm of War or Stormlight Archive Front 5, we have never seen design. And I'm still kind of wondering why we never saw her. Was she hiding that whole time? Did they only just at some point figure out how to get her off world? I
Or
want to
it's
know.
just that it wasn't focused on.
True, in which that could just very well be she was hiding in his cloak as a symbol. And I want this
It was
question
one of the
asked,
palm
and I
trees
want
in the
an
Hawaiian
answer.
shirt.
Did seem conspicuous. Conspicuously absent.
That's all I want. I just want a reason for why we haven't seen design in like the last 3, 4, 5 plus books that happens after the front 5 that we have had.
Maybe something
That's
happens
fair.
in Stormlight where the Spren get some kind of agency. They get, they can go and be off and have their own cognizant will. Because as it stands, Spren pretty much have to be bound through a nail bond to think, right?
We see
To think in the physical realm, yes.
we see Mile Aren able to function to some degree as a Deadeye. And it's getting increasingly more common for her to do so. That's all I'm going to say about that.
It's through her bond with
Now I'm
Adolin, though.
concerned.
Unequivocally, like, that is what started bringing her back, right? Them connecting.
Capital C. Okay, but I was very happy to see her back, and I'm sure you guys knew how excited I was when, and design opened the door. Huh? Wait, she's human?
I thought it was hilarious
Ish.
that she's human, but she still goes by design.
Yeah. And her secret little back room is like math.
I know. She's like, it's so great. It's so great to be around real art. It's just numbers all over the wall.
I wonder if it's like pi. It's all as many pi digits as possible. Because they also reference the Fibonacci sequence.
Yeah.
at the beginning.
Yeah.
Design would really like Yumi's art.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Technically,
oh my gosh.
Those numbers on the wall are a part of pi. We just don't know what digits they are.
True.
Any sequence of numbers of any given length will show up somewhere in an irrational number, which is pi.
Yep. But like,
math is fun.
Really quickly, moving away from character to story, I did like that aspect of what is art. And if I'm really quickly going to pull up my notes, I think I wrote down something. creation, art, and organization, and I thought those were the Dawn Shards. But art is subjective, and it's not. I can't remember how it was worded, but it's not based on what people make. It's how people feel, and it's something intangible, and how somebody can draw something amazing, and it can be art. Somebody can stack rocks in such a way that it can be art. And I do really love that one picture of Yumi in her fight against the machine. Like that picture is really cool, and I can see them maybe drawing it, animating it in a way that could be art to me. But even like to design, we see her art. Yes, that one. And possibly, who was the girl? Not girl. The creme creature.
Sakai? Masaka?
Masaka. You could argue that her art is discovering people and finding out the little parts that make a person human. And you see these little pieces of what is a person's art in this book. And I really enjoyed that throughout all of it. So it's just we brought up design. I wanted to, and I made that little. I just wanted to bring that up.
That was wild when Masako was just like, "Yeah, I'm actually like a million Kremlings."
So
Yeah.
there were
It's like,
weren't
wait,
there,
what?
wasn't that okay? Correct me if I'm wrong, because they were relatively minor characters. There were 4 people in that group, right?
Yes.
It was
Yeah.
Izzy, Toji, Masaka.
Tojin, Masaka, and Akane.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's a
plus-
pretty
I
good.
couldn't remember that.
I couldn't remember it.
so we have a dude, a chick, and a pile of bugs.
2 chicks and a pile of bugs.
2 chicks and a pile of bugs.
The normal bar crew.
Yeah,
Exactly.
right.
But like, man,
That sounds like a
friend
bad
group.
joke.
I guess.
Dude,
I
2
guess we're
chicks and
really
a pile
just.
of bugs. Walk into a noodle bar.
Yeah. Where a mathematical equation serves them a bowl of ramen. I really, every scene that was in that ramen bar was absolutely spectacular, in my opinion. And those were probably some of my favorites.
Absolutely. And there's actually, I forget where it was that I saw this, because it was, I think it was in the preface for one of the Wheel of Time books, possibly. Brandon talks about this scene from that series where Perrin is working at the anvil, and everyone really strongly identifies with that scene because it's him returning to his normal, like, this is how he sees himself, and it's this normalizing scene where everything is chaos around him, but he's still a blacksmith at heart. And the noodle shop scene goes back to that a little bit, right? It's this sort of identifiable, comforting moment where it's like, this is us. And I think that that helps make this book just all that much more great.
I think it works in like one, it's a noodle shop. I'm sure that like that imagery a lot of people can actually connect to. Like that one's easy to imagine. You have a character that actually knows what's going on with design, a lovable character that we've already met. She's there. You've got Yumi able to talk to people, and you've got Painter able to talk to somebody. So it works on multiple levels for every single person, both the 2 characters and for us, the reader. And every single scene in that is absolutely spectacular. You've got the first one where we've got design showing up, and Hoyd is a hat rack, which I will admit is hilarious, especially considering she painted him copper. You've got the one scene where she's just like introducing them, and they're all having fun as friends, and then you've got them all like another time completely hating on Painter. And I'm crying my eyes out at that because I'm always worried, like, what are people actually saying behind my back? And I will never know. And then the next time is like, do you actually want to know what happened? And then at the very end, and I'm sure I'm skipping over a couple of them. At the very end, they own the noodle shop now. And I love the line as well as the mental image of a girl that can stack rocks, can stack plates in all sorts of ways. And I'm just imagining her sort of like the scene in the Polar Express when they're all singing Hot Chocolate, where they're balancing all these cups and plates and everything and bowls all out of the door. It's just, I love every single scene in that noodle shop.
I'm just picturing a bunch of dwarves in a hobbit hole throwing dishes back and forth. That's what Bilbo Baggins hates.
Yeah, that's what Aerother needs, is like a good Maruchan ramen shop.
Okay, I'm looking back at my notes. Oh, do we want to talk about probably Brandon's biggest mistake?
What's that?
There was an
You're gonna have to qualify that.
There was an actual typo in the book.
That's
It's all the time. That's not that big a deal.
But how many times have you actually seen one of Brandon's books?
I've
And it's a
seen-
very
I've
weird
seen one.
typo.
I've seen
Long
that
time ago.
before in other books, in
Can
like
you- can you
first
tell-
editions. It's
you
the
go- Yeah, but those are
it's
like
where
swaps.
It's like Yumi screamed.
It's on
but-
page 240.
Instead of screamed, it says it's like
I'm trying
instead of
not
the
to
S, it's a C.
cream. Page 240.
It's instead of an S, it's a C.
Nice.
So it's like two C's.
And yes, I'm aware that in like the first editions there are some where like I think it's Dragon mentioned that sometimes they made Marsh.
But no,
Moash.
it's they're editing.
Moash.
They're always
Marsh.
editing mistakes in first edition books like that, where
I've never really
sometimes
noticed
it's-
one until this. This is like the
Yeah.
first time I've ever noticed a mistake in Brandon's work. And it's just
That's-
I don't want to.
How
Also,
often do
on
you
the
read
editor,
first?
it's a
Yeah,
it's
it's
a
on the
typo.
editor. It's a typo. It's
That's
on the
also
editor
true.
more so than it is on Brandon. Like,
Okay, if it's not Brandon's fault, then fire that guy. Brandon, I forgive, but
What
this
was,
guy,
What was the team he wanted to be a part of? Was it the Night Watch?
yeah, the Dream Watch.
Dream Watch.
I hate those guys. Oh,
That
I hate
was
those
like,
guys so much.
So my friend Pat went through Fire Academy recently, wanted to become a firefighter. And it was like what he described to me of how how firefighters are picked and selected and what it's like to be one of them. It sounded so similar to the Dream Watch. It's like you think, you go through all this training, you could be saving lives and stuff, and then you realize like, oh, it's just a bunch of people that happen to know the right people
Politics.
and like, yeah, the politics of it, and they just kind of wait around. Like that felt really true to life. Not bashing firefighters, obviously you're heroes and awesome.
Yeah.
But just like
One of my old neighbors
the
went
system.
to the academy for it. Yeah. But like that scene where like, do you know you've got really good drawings? He's like, so I could have made it? Oh no. No. Do you see that guy over there? That's the governor's daughter. You see that person over there? They own a business. And like I was like, oh, you've got to be kidding me.
It's really
I've
like
never
that.
wanted to punch a book character in the face as hard as I do right now. Like, I want to kill Moash, but you deserve to have your nose broken, my guy.
Well, and it's not even him. It's just the system, like, because he's the one who at least told Painter. Like,
Yes,
like,
but he's at that moment he's the face of it. At that moment, he's the guy who knows, and he's the guy talking. And yeah, the problem is the society that was built that way, which we can make an argument for our society and how it's built that way. I'm sure there's no correlation there, but in that moment, he's the one doing it. And I do like the part at the end where like, oh, all those guys, they had to go get real jobs.
their daddy's companies.
Yes, true. But nobody got to own the ramen shop. None of them got to own it.
Oh, none of them got to own it. I was like, what do you mean
Yes.
nobody got to own the ramen shop? Yumi and
No,
Painter
Yumi
own
and
the
Painter
ramen
did.
shop.
I know. But I'm saying none of those guys ended up working at the ramen shop, so they can suck it. I've always loved the idea of like owning a small little place. I want to own a bookstore so badly. How cool would it to be to live, have like an upstairs where it's the living quarters, downstairs is a bookstore, and you don't make a huge amount of money, but you make enough where you're happy, and that would be amazing. And that's the sort of dream aesthetic I'm getting with and we're commenting back with this ramen shop. But I love that. I love the ramen shop so much.
Yeah, I think this is definitely like supposed to be a really cute book. It's supposed to be kind of like, oh, the ending battle wasn't as crazy as like the world ending stuff you've seen, but like, it's cute, right? Like they get together in the end. She's not gone forever. Like, what did you think of that ending, by the way? Did you kind of feel like it was cheap, or because it was definitely foreshadowed that she was going to disappear forever? Like sometimes you.
I think it could have gone either way. At the very moment, I was like, she can't be dead, can she? And the spoilers for the Elementals movie that just came out. They have a scene kind of.
No.
Okay, I'll shut up. Okay, never mind. I thought in that moment it could be any way, and I was like, Brandon would kill off a character to do this.
He would.
I shut up about Elementals.
But at the same time, like,
old Brandon
I
would.
knew she wasn't gonna die. Like, you knew that she wasn't gonna die because it's a romance book that he's written for his wife.
Yes.
Like, the main female, like, romantic lead is not gonna die. I'm so sorry, but she's just not.
Especially when.
And then he fakes us out by epilogue, and then epilogue also.
She's like
Another
weirdly
epilogue.
the more interesting one of the two of them. Like you're not gonna kill off the more interesting one who everybody's friends with.
Yeah.
They have to explain she's not actually my sister.
Oh, Alabama got in that one.
I love when he was like, why do people keep saying it's easier to accept that you'd be my sister?
Ouch. Yeah, I love that.
Oh, that makes sense.
I love the comedy. I loved any interaction between them two. It was perfect. Absolutely perfect. And I love them. Arguably, I could say it's a better love story than what I actually enjoyed with Vin and Ellen's. But I think that's because Vin and Ellen's had to have 3 books, and they needed to have ups and downs, peaks and valleys.
Also, he's had a little bit of practice since then.
Absolutely. Yes. Whilst this one, you can have the end, the happily ever after. And I'm kind of hoping that maybe we can see them again in Space Age. Maybe like a reference to the shop maybe having a food chain now? Who knows?
They sell chowder?
They're renting a space on Iron 7.
Yeah, and they've got a little pasta shop. They got a guy swinging a sign.
As soon as I got to the end of this book, I was picturing, for those of you who have played Mass Effect, when you're on the oh god, what's the name of the big space station?
Citadel?
The Citadel. And you're walking through some of the different areas in the Citadel. There's a dude at a noodle shop, and every time you walk past, he shouts whatever the Japanese thing, and I kept picturing that towards the end of this book. Yeah, that would be a great little throwback.
Okay, so let's talk about, since we're talking about space, the Daystar planet.
Oh, here we go.
Yes. And how's the Udell?
The Shodell?
Shodell, that's what it was.
Shodell.
These are
For a split second, I was like, wait, could this be Yolen? Like, what if the event that happened was
No.
in and out? It was for a very brief second, and it was completely just in the moment of frantic thinking as I'm like, just got this new revelation, this new information.
Yeah. So, this is the first time that we've actually, seen a description of them, like, on page.
Yes, it is. I just want to interject a quick fact because I'm a huge outer space nerd. And so the way these two planets are aligned, in order to make them like show up the way they do, their orbit must be roughly that they are on opposite sides of the same orbit in Lagrangian points to one another around the star, right?
Mm-hmm.
We recently, just in the last couple of weeks, as this book was first released, found an example of such a system in real life thanks to the James Webb Space Telescope. It's not opposite, but one follows the other in close orbit, and the timing of that is just so stupendously coincidental. It's mind-blowing.
Right.
That's awesome.
You think of the
really cool.
infinitum of planet and exoplanet like configurations that are out there. That's wild.
Isn't it? That's just, when I read that, I was like, holy crap.
That's awesome. I also love space, and I really wish it had gone more into that. Maybe, and I think I was listening to Sharkcast, and they commented how like, oh, it was kind of upsetting that we didn't get a focus really on like, hey, this is first contact with an alien species, and this should kind of be a huge piece of it.
That was
but
weird.
I think maybe it would be cool if we see that in like Era 3 maybe, and how like we see them launching a satellite. And can I spoil Doctor Who, Kay? Like an episode of Doctor Who?
Yes,
Okay.
you can spoil an episode of Doctor Who. I've watched most of Doctor Who, so
I'm never gonna see it anyway. I don't care.
In Matt Smith's run as the 11th Doctor, there's one where they go back to the Apollo mission, and how it becomes this huge thing about the rocket being launched up and the landing on the moon, and it was a huge part of the actual episode. And I'm just hoping at some point in the Cosmere we get that sense of awe and achievement of they've built a rocket. They have met these people in a way nobody else has been able to. And now in this one, we see that they have done that. We see Iron Station 7, which I'm just envisioning the watchtower from Justice League sort of floating in space.
Nice.
But I want to not skip that. I want to see them maybe in like the last two books, like them start on it, them end on it, of them like launching a satellite and seeing the planet. And maybe you get this beautiful artwork at the end where it shows like the entire planet.
So where does that happen,
Not
do you
just-
think? In like an Elantris sequel, or like when do you think that would take place?
I would say it has to become before Era 4, because Era 4 is happening after all of this.
So maybe
supposedly.
Mistborn Era 3?
I think we would see it either in Era 3, or maybe we see it in something, maybe it would have to be Era I think we're going to get Era 3, and I think as much as I agree with Kay that Brandon's going to try to stick to what he's actually got planned, I think we're probably going to get another book or maybe a series in between that, and maybe push 4 back to 5.
I think if we do, I don't think Brandon's gonna write it. I think he'll co-author it with Dan Wells.
Yeah,
Oh,
that makes sense.
I volunteer as tribute.
Just because Sanderson has so many things, so many books on his plate that he's talked about how he really can't
Because he's got...
include anymore.
And
I
didn't
mean, we've got...
Dan Wells sign on to
6
do
Stormlight.
Mistborn?
He signed on to do something Cosmere, like co-authored, but I don't remember what it is. I don't think it's any
I think of like Eric
main
or somebody.
world. I don't think it's one of the main worlds.
Yeah.
I think it's something else.
Yeah.
That's
I think
cool.
it's one of the lesser worlds. But we've got like 6 Stormlight books. We've got, at the very least, 6 Mistborn books. We've got 5 Dragonsteel books. 2 Elantris books.
Three Dragonsteel books.
I thought it was going to be a 5-book series.
It was originally going to be a 5-book series. It's a 3-book series.
I think we've kind of already had that moment. I think it's been robbed of us. At the end of Six to the Dusk, you find out there's people of the sky. At the end of Tress of the Emerald Sea, you find out this witch was actually just a woman in a rocket ship. At the end of this one,
True.
they go to the other planet and you find the Shodeller there. It's like, it feels like we keep getting robbed of that moment. It's always like a big twist.
But we're seeing the end of it. We're seeing, if like modern day, we're seeing F-16s break the sound barrier, right? We're seeing all these really fast and amazing aircraft do all these things, but you can still recount the stories of like the Bell X-1 and listen, like rewatch the Right Stuff. Have you guys ever seen the Right Stuff?
Talking about like the Wright brothers?
No, the first like good 30 minutes of it is about breaking the sound barrier. And it's really impressive how they show it. And like even like rewatching the old footage of Neil Armstrong landing on the moon, don't you get the shivers watching that? Even though we've been there so many times and we're planning on going to Mars now, that footage of a man stepping on a whole other planet is one of the most inspirational things. Every person on Earth has seen that clip, knows that line. And I feel like we can still get that. I love space. I love the whole aspect of it.
I get that. And especially even in like Rhythm of War, when, you know, Shallan's looking at these documents and she sees like Nalthis, Scadrial, like what the heck are these? You know, where are those kingdoms? Doesn't that kind of give you that feeling a little bit?
Yeah, like they can explore and they can do it. The West Wing has this really great scene.
I love that episode.
Take a
it's
drink.
My favorite episode of the show.
It's called 5. And you got to say it right.
Yes.
Where somebody asked him, like, what's so important about this spaceship? And he's like, it's because it's next. Because we came out of the cave and we saw mountains and we crossed them and we saw the ocean and we spanned over everything. And then we looked to the stars and we went to the moon. And now we have one more place to go. And it's just, we are voyagers. We are explorers. This is what we are at our core. And this will always be what we are meant to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's cool is this is a universe where you can travel to another planet and find a dragon. Like, how awesome is that?
Do we want to start wrapping up? Because we have 15 minutes until it's been an hour and a half.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Only that little? Wow. Let me check my notes. Briefly going back, I made the specific note on page 396 where a machine can be art. Like, I brought it up earlier how all these things are art, and how they commented, the machine can't create art. It's a machine. It's got none of that intent or purpose of creating something. And for once, I found myself disagreeing greatly with that. Because look at a computer. Look right down at your computer. Think of how much has gone into that in all these years. From the very first one with just, I'm forgetting the movie that has Benedict Cumberbatch in World War II. Whatever that movie was that I'm forgetting. The
Imitation Game?
Yes, the Imitation Game, where they crack the Enigma code and they use like one of the very first computers to do that. Think about that, and think about how it's downgraded now to this tiny little thing at your side or right in front of you. That is beautiful. That is art. And you have other machines. Have you guys seen the video where this robot has like this little scooper and it's in a little sea of oil and it needs to continually pull oil to it or it will die?
Yeah, I've seen that. And it's like blood red.
Yes, and how that's art. It might not be a person creating something, and a person might have created this to make art, but it's still art in a way. And I think the fact, like, yeah, what this machine has been doing is really bad, and the fact that it has sentience scares the crap out of me. But in a way, it's been doing this thing, and think about the miles and huge amount of stones that must be all around it.
But it's like,
tell me how that wouldn't be impressive.
it's about like the appreciation. It's about the sentimentality of art too, because it's like, yes, you have this machine that can theoretically make way more rocks than any single person could do, but it's like the way the machine is used, the responsibility of the machine. You know, they just set this thing up and it goes until it's played itself out. You know, and when you have like Yumi, she's, you know, well, a person. She has like her own individuality and thoughts and desires, and like, yes, the machine will ultimately get you there, but like, at what point is it worth it, you know, when you have to give up all this or you take the soul out of it? Like, I like how
Well,
this book
and
shows both sides of that.
yeah, and it's not necessarily saying that the machine was creating art, but that the machine itself is a form of art.
Mm-hmm. If I can get a little bit, continue down this a bit, with what's going on in Hollywood right now and the writer's strike, one of the big things about it is we don't want AI replacing our jobs. It's not that you can just go to Chat GBT and you could say, write me a short story about this. I could literally put in, give me a short fan fiction about Vin meeting Wax, and it can give me a short little one. But the thing is, and I think Brandon and Dan talked about this in their podcast, Intentionally Blank, that might not be art, but a person who, and if you read that Chat GBT thing, it is really not that good. Really not
They're
that good.
always bad, yeah.
They're always pretty bad. But if a person can't get the input, the search right to get ChatGPT or whatever is the next iteration, whichever one is creating the visual ones, if you can get the input to do something specific that is exactly what you want it to be, could that not be art?
It can be. It could be. Like,
Like,
but it.
isn't what's sorry, like one of the like all the
I
statues of like Michael by Leonardo da Vinci, where you've got David and how you can see like him pulling on the toga in marble, and you can see veins in his hands. And nowadays we've got laser cutters and chisels and levels and all these intricate little tools, but they were able to. But what's pretty amazing about all that old stuff is that they were able to do literally just a hammer, a chisel, and a whole lot of patience. Could that not correlate to how a person can take a program that doesn't really turn out good things, somehow make it turn out something beautiful?
As a musician, I think about this all the time because it's like, you practice and practice and practice to be able to sound smooth. You want to sound like smooth and cohesive, and you want, like, literally, you have no idea how much thought I've put into like my guitar tone, just like the sound that my guitar literally makes and how it fits with like the bass and the vocals and all this stuff. And it's like, it it drives me nuts thinking that, you know, you could theoretically just make some techno music or some electronic music that right off the bat, like, everything just sounds good because it's digital and it's not, you know, you don't have to think about that kind of stuff. You don't have to think about, is this in tune or whatever. And like, for a long time I was like, well, my art has more value though, because I took the time to think about my tone and I practiced all those hours to make sure that my chords that I strummed sounded good. But at the end of the day, like, if somebody wants to listen to electronic music because they just like the way it sounds and it just, they like how the production is, you know, like, good for them. Like, if it's just better music, it's just better music. Like, it doesn't matter how it was made, you know. Maybe I appreciate it
Is
more, but
I think the art comes from the pain and what you've put into it. Your art comes from your practice, right? Whether it be drawing or playing the guitar. Kay's art comes from teaching and how she's undoubtedly, I'm guessing, went through a lot of training to be able to teach these kids. John, you've probably done a lot of work in order to get where you are with your job, right? I mean, you had to go to a seminar this past year, right?
Well,
Think
yeah,
about
that was a bonus thing, but yeah, there's certifications and things like that. Yeah.
but you have to work hard to get to that, and then you create something. And think about the work that's gone into getting to that point. And I could say, like, my fan fictions that I write, like, going back now, yeah, this reads really horribly, but I love them. And yeah, I'm redoing them so they read better, but it's still at the core, that's what it was. And I'm at the point now where I can see I've improved. The robot, the machine, was creating something that wasn't good. It was using investiture, creating out smog, and creating nightmares and entrapping people for centuries. But the pain that went into creating the machine, I have to wonder, does that make it art? Like, think about those 3 scientists and how long they're working on making something that would mean people can relax. We didn't need to subject 16 girls for eternity. Or
14.
I thought it was 16. I thought they specifically
14.
said Yumi
14.
and 15 others. Okay, I'll take your
Yumi
word
and
for it.
13 others.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. But I wonder if the pain is what makes something beautiful.
It
the
is.
patience that Leonardo da Vinci went through to make these statues for who knows how many years.
Well, it's also interesting because, like, with art, like, a machine can only do so much. For example, like, I do knitting and crochet as well. Like, I knit this sweater. But
Shout out.
and like, shout out. I made this sweater.
Nice sweater, Kay.
Thank you.
She knit one of my
I made
hats.
it.
It's really cool.
But with knitting, you can actually do machine knitting because it's all directly in rows and in lines. But with crochet, there's actually not or at least we haven't found a way to make a machine to do crochet.
What?
Because, yeah.
Yep.
So if you ever see anything crocheted in a store, someone handmade that.
That's wild.
Because crochet is something that it doesn't go in linear rows. It doesn't go in linear lines necessarily. You can go in essentially any direction. Your stitches can go in any direction that you want them to.
That sounds impossible to me. Like, we have machines that do everything.
They have not been able to make a machine to crochet.
That's insane.
Like, I think I saw something about this guy buying a giant Snorlax crochet, like, beanbag chair. People were, like, making fun of it. And then you had to realize, like, the pain that somebody must have gone to, because a robot cannot do that. A robot cannot make that thing. Somebody sat and did all that for who knows how long.
Hey, they haven't made a machine that can get super buzzed off 3 beers and then get really bad social anxiety and play a horrible gig. So, those engineers.
You gotta start streaming your shows so we can watch.
That's not a bad idea. Because, nobody...
I'm telling you, man, we'd be there to support you.
Nobody wants to go out on a Friday night these days. So that would be a good way to, like... You can watch, but you don't have to get out of your house.
I didn't mean for us to get into this whole metaphysical about what is art.
I was wondering...
I mean, it is a central theme of the book, though.
Yeah.
There was a lot of Cosmere Connections that we didn't really get time for. Should we maybe do, like, another episode on this?
Maybe one that's a little more actual organized.
Can we do a quick fire round if anybody has any specific one? Can you check page 283 real quick?
My pages in the physical book do not line up with the ones in the PDF, unfortunately.
They do not?
I could not find your typo.
Okay. Because I could have sworn it was 16. If Kay's right, I have no reason to doubt her.
It's definitely 14. I'm so sorry, but it is definitely 14. Yeah. We currently only have 14. 16 at most. So the most
There we go.
The most number of Yokihijus that they could have is 16. but the most
Okay.
that they have right now, the number that they have right now is 14.
Yeah. I think, wasn't that tied to the fact that Yumi was one of the two they technically didn't have, as well as the random? I don't know. Never mind.
Oh,
I'm
no,
glad we
they had
I'm glad we just.
14. Yumi is one of the 14.
Okay, I don't know what I'm thinking. Sorry.
Don't know
I'm
either.
trying to. I don't know why I'm trying to make excuses. We were both right.
You're trying to make it 16 because 16 is a number of significance within the Cosmere. That's what you're trying to do.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. It's Cosmere Connections, guys. Come on.
But I'm so sorry, this is not a connection. There are 14 Yokihijo right now.
But there can be 16.
But there are not.
No, but the fact that there can be could be significant.
Yes.
Yeah,
True.
that's all I was trying to say.
I do not have the PDF of this book.
It could be. It hasn't been ruled out yet.
I'm looking through all my notes trying to see if there's anything really big Cosmere-wise. I'm not really seeing much. There's the cultivation makes nightmares comment. Is that meant to be literal? Is cultivation the one creating everybody's nightmares? Or is that sort of cultivation sometimes makes nightmares for people in Roshar?
I think that cultivation. I don't know. That's a good question. I do think that it has to do with like the fact that like you do grow within nightmares, and that is something that is connected to cultivation. Cultivation does growth.
I think it's more like that a direct comparison between the cultivation, like Spren and cognitive shadows, and that they are a similar level of invested entity. You know, like they're rank 1 invested entities.
Gotcha. I was just wondering because we know that Honor kind of the surges are his, and those are all over the Cosmere. Preservation, Ruin, Metals act that way all over the Cosmere. So I'm wondering if maybe nightmares have some weird correlation to cultivation.
Well, they are.
Like, are they specifically tied to her? Like, if cultivation wanted, could she just not give anybody nightmares anymore?
I don't think so. Because that would have to imply that cultivation is connected to every person in the Cosmere to be able to influence them.
Maybe that's like you get them through your local shard from somewhere beyond that. Because, like, who's sending Dalinar these visions? I feel like there's some kind of force that's sending out visions. Who sent this story to Hoyd, even? Like, there's some kind of energy or intelligence that's, like, sending these visions or ideas out.
Maybe it's the god beyond.
And we also, it could maybe connect to the fact that we don't know how shards are communicating with each other. Like maybe there's a sort of extranet, maybe like a back way of communicating via investiture that can be hidden through every shard.
Anti-investiture.
Oh.
You have no idea.
No. There was a comment about design being on Threnody. Do we think we're going to see that in the Silent sequel?
Maybe. It'll depend if it's along this vein where it's kind of narrated by Hoyd, or if it's just another story set on Threnody. I don't think we have a good basis for
sufficient data.
Yeah, like I mean, there's no way to know. We don't have any details yet.
Mm-hmm.
That's a wild world. Are we ever gonna do an episode on that? Threnody?
Threnody? Yeah, we should at some point.
We could.
I think probably. Sorry.
Once we're done with.
That's a quick one.
Oh boy, where do we put it? We can do Arcanum Unbounded as like a in a row and just do each story one episode.
It's cool.
Thinking what we could do, and I guess this is pretty much us wrapping up.
Yeah, right. We've officially moved on.
Okay, I was thinking, since this is basically the prologue to season 3 of Cosmere Connections, once we finish Era 1, we can basically take a small break in which we can do Elantris, Warbreaker, maybe a few of the Arcanum Unbounded, and then when we do Era 2's 1, 2, and 3, then we take a break, do Secret History, then do Lost Metal, and then we can take another small break, because probably by then he'll have done Elantris 2, or maybe even 3, or a few other things, and then the Stormlight Archive 1 through 5, take a break there. I kind of don't want to split up a lot of the series in a way.
Well, if we continue to do 2 books a year, he is going to outpace us.
Yeah. So either we need to start doing quicker notes, or
man.
yeah, jeez. Well, he's doing
Okay,
one book a year.
How about we wrap up and then talk about this?
Okay, we can. Yeah, we'll discuss this behind the scenes. Is there any last comments anybody would like to make on this book?
No.
Perfection.
No, nothing? Perfection. I think the characters were perfect. Okay, granted, I went on and on about Painter, but Yumi was so adorable. And her going out and deciding things for herself and making her own decisions was amazing. And when she got reset, I was screaming in panic. I was having an absolute freak out.
Yeah, I really liked Yumi's characterization in this book a lot. I think it was really fun to get to see her experience just the joys of just like normal life that like you don't really think about necessarily. Like that we don't usually think about, like going shopping for the first time. Like
That
going
scene was so great.
and eating noodles at a noodle shop with friends. Like it's like those little things that it's like you kind of take for granted. That it's kind of, it was very fun to see through the eyes of someone who hasn't experienced those things before, and the unadulterated joy that that character has in those experiences.
It was very slice of life. And since we're talking, I'll just talk about the end of her character arc. The fact that when she's making herself physicalized, the first time when she's fighting the machine, she doesn't do who she was for thousands of years. She doesn't put on her, I'm forgetting the term.
Outfit. Her Yokihicho outfit.
Her Yokihijo outfit, which is based upon maidens. I'm forgetting the term. That's actually in Japan, but Temple Maiden outfit? Temple Maiden.
Mm.
But she doesn't put that on. She puts on the dress that she bought. She puts on her clothes. The clothes that she picked out. And it's just, that's the bit of the artwork that's in that, is you see her in that blue dress. And that's who she is.
That's cool.
This book. I love these characters, I will say. These characters were probably some of my favorites. And I love Ellen. I love Ellen and Vin's relationship. But Painter and Yumi, that is S-class. Absolute perfection. And I was connected to them every step of the way. And I would give nothing more just to read a whole book series of what their lives are like.
Just slice of life, them owning their ramen shop and just hanging out.
Mm-hmm. Maybe having... Oh, it's like... What is the manga called? There's isekai mangas where this guy just owns a ramen shop, basically, and he has people from other world come in. Imagine having a Cosmere one of that, where you have, like, Skadrians walk in, Rosharans walk in, Elantrians walk in. And there was even the line, like, they're always welcome to otherworldly visitors. And just, like, have them, like, do that. How fun would that be?
3 Elantrians and a Windrunner walk into a bar.
They bump into an Allomancer.
Who probably
everything
slipped on a
goes
boneless
fine.
slug thing.
That's good.
And the dragon turns back to normal. I don't know how he's going to top this. We've got one more secret project that comes out in...
Oh, the next one is the one that
October. I'm so excited for it.
The one that I think about every day.
I started watching the preview chapter for this one, and he said one word that made me turn it off. Because, well, not one word, but, I mean, he got to a certain point where I was just, like, stunned.
Yeah.
And then I had to stop and wait and, like, recombobulate. And then I watched for, like, another 2-3 minutes, and then I stopped it because, like Reader, I did not want to have any part of that spoiled. Once I knew what was going on, I was like, we're done here. I need to save that. This is...
Yeah, because I feel like Secret Project 1, okay, that's for my wife. Secret Project 2, that's for me. Secret Project 3, this is for my wife. Secret Project 4, that's for us. That's for us.
For his kids, but we are also...
No. Secret Project 5, the 5th one. There's
a 5th one?
Wait, what?
He wrote 5.
There's a 5th one?
He wrote
I thought
5.
there were 4.
The 5th one's for his kids.
The 5th one's for his kids, and it's a middle grades novel that he wants to turn into a graphic novel eventually.
I was like, there are 4 secret novels coming out every 3 months. Wait, there's a 5th one?
So
there's a 5th secret novel that he wrote in secret?
Yeah, he wrote 5 books, but he's only releasing 4 right now, because the other one he wants to turn into a graphic novel. So...
And weirdly, we're still surprised. Like, we shouldn't even be surprised at this point.
Oh, no. As soon as he puts out... Dude, watching that video, he puts down... He's like, I wrote a book. And I was like, okay, this was not surprising. I bet there's more. And then he puts down the
second one
where they're like... And I'm like, yeah, that's better.
I had turned to my brother and I was like, well, this author is going to just drop 2 new books on us one of these days. And then Brandon's like, I wrote a second book. Okay, that's awesome. I expect that. I wrote a second one. That's even more impressive. I wrote 4.
I remember, so when that video came out, I'd seen it, and I was listening to it on my way home from work, and I got home, and I just immediately ran into, this was when I was living with my roommate, I ran into her room, and I was like, this man. I was just like, oh my god. Like, I know that you don't read any of these books, but let me just rant about this for a second, because oh my god, this man is a drama queen.
He's a showman.
He totally is. I have a bunch of coworkers that I got into the Cosmere stuff, that the place we used to work together no longer exists, but when I saw that video, I was like texting all of them links to this video. I was like, go watch this, put it on your big TV, like, you have to see this, you're gonna blow your freaking tops. Like, yeah, it was great.
Whenever I'm trying to persuade somebody to read this, I'm like, I'm either going with the Cosmere, and I'm like, everything is connected. You don't understand. Every little detail is important, and he draws upon it, and you've got all of these things on different planets, and they all merge, and it's amazing. Or I'll talk about Brandon, and I'm like, he loves the characters. And there was this time where you did this whole video where it was like, I got so upset. Everybody thought he was going to take a quick break and step back. But he dropped, Secret Project 1, Secret Project 2, 3 through 4.
Yeah, he's the opposite of taking a break.
Yeah.
No, he took a break. His break was from public appearance to do what he actually wants to do.
God bless him.
Which I do kind of like him doing a... Okay, yeah, We'll stop. We'll geek about this
we
behind the
need to
scenes.
close this episode, and then we can talk.
Okay, but we all greatly enjoyed Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, correct?
Oh yeah,
It was fun.
Okay, thank you.
best secret project thus far.
Yes.
Disagree, but
I
it's still good.
You can disagree all you want. It's okay to be wrong.
I'm going to agree because there was a lot more emotional impact in this one for me. Like, Tress had that whole Cosmere aspect to it that I really enjoyed. Which you have dragons, you have, Nalthian predictive technology iPads, rocket ships, and all this cool. And granted, this one has Iron Station 7. But this one, I was with the characters. And I'm sure that a lot of people will agree these characters felt a part of us.
We also get our first... We see a little bit of the spiritual realm in Stormlight stuff with Dalinar doing the whole, like, holy hand clap thing.
Yeah.
But this is the first one where we get we see a little bit of the mechanics of it.
Design just... Here's your spirit web, by the way.
Yeah, that was huge.
Yeah.
That
was
Read your fortune.
Right?
Next time we're going to be covering the prologue of Mistborn Hero of Ages. Just the prologue. We might do a couple chapters in part 1, but I'm thinking right now the prologue will be fine. That'll allow us to get back into it. We can, get excited for the book, and it'll probably be a short episode. Who knows, actually?
Yeah, right.
It'll allow us to here's what we're excited for. We can call dibs on these chapters from this part, and it'll allow us to do all that. But it's not time to head into the spoiler realm.
A short 2 hours.
That's just going to about cover it for this episode. Thank you very much for joining us in our ramblings and predictions. We cannot wait to cover the next secret project. My name is Reader. I've been joined by Swiggityswoo.
Thanks for coming on this crazy ride.
John's here.
We are going to be the first to see what it sees and to chronicle the extraordinary voyage of an unmanned ship called Galileo 5.
And Kay as well.
Art is what you make it.
And always remember, there's always another connection. Yeah, let's get into this. Thumbs up if we're all ready.
Give me a second.
There's no such thing as ready. I'm going to be all kinds of chaos element tonight, apparently.
Oh boy. I have no idea how we even stop. I guess at some point we're just going to be done.
Somehow, weirdly, we are ready. I should put this away.
Just randomly pulls out a guitar.
I'm gonna just put this away. Meanwhile,
Put this
let me
away.
just whip this out.
Mary
Speaking of
Poppins pulling
Shalon.
out. Oh, cool.
Oh, it's upside down.
That's
Stop doing the
wise.
thing, camera.
My speech.
I saw somebody made this whole wooden
There
board
we
for
go.
all of them.
Cool.
There we kind of see it.
That looks really cool.
Yay, Shalon.
It's just
My
a
least-
little light weaving.
Least favorite main Stormlight character.
I
That's
love
everybody's.
Shalon. That's
Okay, you can still
damn
lo-
lie, because Shalon is one of my favorite Stormlight characters, and I will
Okay,
fight
but
you on that.
You can love Shalon, but out of the main point of view ones, she can still be low. If they're all tens
She's
and
still
nines,
my
9
favorite.
doesn't make her bad.
I got a
She's
hot
still
take.
my
Hurt me.
In the
favorite.
meantime, check out this glory. Look at the beauty.
That is nice.
Destruction.
Shalon,
Sorry, I just
Shalon
need to say this,
audiobook
reader. I
way worse
still
than
like
Shalon book.
I like
Shalon way more than Kaladin and Dalinar's storylines. Sorry, not
Okay.
sorry, but
Let me
like,
put it to you this way. I've never gone, oh my god, do we have to hear more about this during a Kaladin or a Dalinar scene? I say that all the time during it's book 3. Help me out. Brain, go.
Oathbringer?
Yeah, thank you.
Ah.
All the time when Shalon's like, oh, I'm crazy. I'm just like, yeah, okay, I got it.
This is how Cosmere Connections, breaks up. For one argument, it was about Shalon.
Well, you know what? During during Mistborn, I had to pick on Reader about Ellen, so I guess during Stormlight, I'm going to be picking on Kay about Shalon.
I don't think Kate Reading does a great Shalon. She's a pretty good narrator, but like when I was reading her chapters, I was connecting with her so much more. Like there's just something about like she's so clever. I don't know. Like you have to nail that delivery for all of her little quips, I think.
Who do you think would be a better voice actor for Shalon then?
I don't know. Maybe Margot Robbie. Somebody like
Tara Strong.
Somebody like really sassy. Like
Tara Strong's like everybody. Ben Tennyson, Bubbles, Twilight Sparkle, Raven.
Tara Strong does a lot
Timmy
of voices.
Turner.
Yeah. She would be good.
You know the guy who did Looney Tunes did every single voice?
Yes.
Like he's noticed like the man of a million voices. Tara Strong is the woman of a million voices.
Okay.
Tara Strong, more like Tara Vangian.
Oh, I see what you did there.
And that's how we get back on track.
See?
Kay's like looking for evidence to try and prove me wrong.
Kay's looking for that character, I bet.
Actually, it says here in the Coppermine the Shalon chapters are interesting.
Fun fact, Shalon chapters are in fact my favorite, so I will fight you on that.
I liked Shalon in the first 2 books, but book 3 and 4, she kind of gets a little tedious, especially in book 3. Just my opinion.
My opinion was she got better throughout the series. That was mine. Just like her mental state declining and all that made her more interesting to me. But I think also is the fact like she's actually in the story now. Also in book 1, she's like completely separate.
I know, I was so sad about that. Every time we had to go back and talk to Dalinar, I was like, can we please get back to Shalon?
No.
2/3.
Every time I start
is
that
a
book,
different part, and
every time I start the Stormlight Archive over again, I'm like, can we just get to the Dalinar part? Like, come on.
I like
it's called the Way of Kings, not the Way of some plebe from Vadenar.
Me with the interludes. What the heck is going on?
My big Shalon.
Do I need to know that spread get measured?
Yes, it becomes important, as you know from reading Yumi.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, let's.
I'm gonna need another beer at this rate.
Oh no.